Well, this morning I was assigned to talk to you about how to get the most out of your HCU experience. How do you get the goodie out of it? How do you get the benefit out of Heritage Christian University? And that's what I want to talk to you about a little bit. And usually, most of y'all know that I really like the technology stuff, and I like the audio, I like the video, I like to have the videos, and I like to tell the jokes and do the stuff that is a little unusual. And the reason I do that, that's because of the Frank Abagnale. Y'all, does anybody know who Frank Abagnale is? He's the counterfeiter. And he would say, what you need to do is you need to wear the pinstripes because you wow them with the pinstripes. Well, that's why I do it. When you have nothing else, you use Prezi, and everybody's like, "Wow, that's really neat. I've never seen that computer program before." Well, I don't have a projector and a screen in here. I don't have a computer in here today. So I took a page from Bill's book, and Bill always does everything the reverse, and so I thought that's what I would do this morning. And if I was the devil, I would not want you to graduate from Heritage Christian University. As a matter of fact, if I was the devil, what I would do is I would set me up a plan to make sure that you didn't, because there's no way in the world that I would want to release on the world people who had dedicated their life to the study of the Word of God, and it's their purpose and their mission in life to go out and to spread the Word of God. There is no way that I would allow that to happen. There's no way that I would want that to happen. There's no way that what I would want to do is I would want to release 30 or 40 people just to go out into the world who preach the gospel of Jesus Christ. I would not want that to happen. And so what I would do is I would devise me a little plan, and the first thing that I would come up with is I would give you a negative attitude. What I would do is I would set you up with a negative attitude so that what you do, there's this little man in your mind his job is he's the matcher. What he does is he matches things up. He loves symmetry. And he wants to match everything up. And when he sees things that are out of kilter, he throws a flag on that. But he loves to match things up, and that's what his job is. And I know that you may not know that he lives there, but there's this little guy, and that's what he does. And so you say, "Man, my buddy has a camper. I would really like to have a camper, but I don't ever see campers for sale." And this little guy, he wakes up in his chair and he says, "Well, okay, I'm on task." And so then you're driving down the road, and I don't know if you've ever seen this or noticed this, but now all of a sudden, everywhere you look, there's a camper for sale. Your best friend gets a Volkswagen Bug, and you think, "Oh, that's so neat. I'd like to have one of those too. I don't really see those that often." Then all of a sudden, the guy's like, "Okay, I've got to be matching these things up." And so every time you drive down the road, he says, "There's one over there. There's one over there." And then all of a sudden, from out of nowhere, they are everywhere. Well, what this little guy does, if you say, "Man, I've got a negative attitude," and what I need to do is I need to look for the little problems. This little guy wakes up and he starts doing it. He says, "Well, I don't like that. You know what? And while I'm at it, I don't like this over here either." And he starts trying to match up all the negative things because that's what you've asked him to do. Well, if I was the devil, what I would do is I would kick that guy, and I would try to get him to start matching up all the negative things, and I would let him pick out all the little things that you don't like. Predominantly, those things are going to be irrelevant, but you're not going to like them, and he's going to try to bring all the little negative things that you don't like to your attention. And so he's going to give you this negative attitude. And in that negative attitude block, one of the things I would want to do is I would give you this idea that nobody can teach you anything. What you need, I tell people sometimes there's two kinds of education. There's the kind that gives you a piece of paper and that you hang that piece of paper on the wall. That's one kind of education. And then there's the other kind that you hang inside your mind. And you can get either one that you want. If what you really want in life is just to have a piece of paper to hang on the wall, you can do that. But to get it inside, that's a little bit tougher. And so if I was the devil, what I would do is I would tell you that really what you need, that really the most important thing is you need that piece of paper to hang on the wall. And you just need to go through the steps and jump through the hoops just so you have that piece of paper, because that's the most important thing. And that's really what you need to do. Now, if I could convince you of that, I think I've just about won the battle. I think I've just about won if I can just convince you that the most important thing is that you get finished and that you have that paper that hangs on the wall, because that's what the world needs and that's what you need. And once you have that paper that hangs on the wall, everything is going to be your way. It is not. It is not going to happen. It's not going to be what you want. Just because you hung that magic piece of paper on the wall, really what's going to happen is when it's all inside. The more of it you can get inside, the better off you're going to be. And what I would do since nobody can teach you anything, I would tell you the next step is that you need to teach everybody everything. I would tell you that what you need to do is your professor is wrong, and you need to argue with him, and that you need to waste hours of class time while everybody else, they paid to come and hear that guy talk. If you want to have a class where you want to talk, then let you hang a sign out somewhere and let people see it. They'll come and pay here to hear you talk. You just look on a registration sheet and you see what tuition is, and then you just charge people that to come hear you talk for an hour and see how that works. My guess is that's not going to go very well. But all these other people sitting in class beside you, that's what they paid to hear that guy. So, what I would do is I would tell you that he's wrong and you really need to correct him. This is your moral responsibility. That's what I would do if I was the devil. Well, that's all about your attitude. The next thing I would do is I would overload you. I would convince you that what you need to do is that you need to have zero margin in your life. When you look at a printed page, you don't begrudge that page because it has white space in there on each side, above and below, and between the words. It would really be much more efficient of us if we would just print the page from edge to edge with no spaces, right? Wouldn't that be so much? And there would be no leading between the lines. Wouldn't that be so much better? I bet we could get a 100-page book down to about 20 if we would do that. But we don't look at that page and get mad at that. But in our life, what you do with our clock is that we leave no white space in between anything. And if I've got 30 minutes before the next class, that gives me enough time that I can run to Walmart, I can run to the bank, and I can pick up my dry cleaning. That's how I work. And then after class, I think, okay, school's over. I get out at 4:30. I've got to be at this church activity at 6. That gives me enough time that I think that I can go fishing. That's the way that it works for me. And that's really, I'm not kidding. Almost every one of these things. The reason I know is because my friend the devil sits on my shoulder and he has whispered all these things in my ear for many, many years. But that's what he does to me. He overloads me. And he overloads me not only with the things that I need to be overloaded with, not only are all these terrific good things that are out there, but then there are all these other things. Not only does the devil give me, he says, you need to get finished with college, and so what you need to do is you need to figure out some way to get your advisor to allow you to take 21 hours this semester. Not only does he do that, but what he does is he sits up there and he says, and my best friend in the world gets a new ski boat and is obsessed with skiing, and he calls me and says, hey, you want to go skiing? Yes, I want to go skiing. And so we go skiing. That's the way the devil works on me. So not only does he overload me, but he overloads me with all these things that I really want to do that are just more fun. My ultimate goal in life is to be healthy, but really what I want is to finish that cheesecake in my refrigerator. And so I do that. I don't have any fruit cheesecake in my refrigerator anymore because my theory on it is I need to get rid of that cheesecake. And so that's the way I deal with that. So I finished the last of it off this morning. Thank you, Alana. So that's the way I deal with it. Well, what happens is, you really need to be working on that term paper, but your friend from the other room says, hey, we got 16 guys and we're going to play Modern Warfare 2. I would much rather do that than work on a term paper. And so that's the devil that calls in from the other room, and that says that. Your favorite series is now on Netflix, and you can watch 36 hours straight of it. That's what I would do too. I would distract you. Why are you here? If you say, why am I here? And you answer that question. At church sometimes in Bible class, I'll ask people, I'll say, why are you here? And we'll go through all these answers, But ultimately, when you get down to it, if you really work your way through, why are you here? This is actually kind of a fun and neat exercise, but if you work your way through it, ultimately what people will finally come to the realization is, I am here to please God. I want to be pleasing to God. Now, they'll give you all these other answers until you get there, but ultimately that's what you want to get to. And they'll say, well, I'm here to please God. Now, you might start with, some will, and in your progression of spiritual maturity, I was baptized because I didn't want to go to hell. But then as I matured, I wanted to go to heaven. But then as I matured, I just want to serve God. Well, the same thing is true kind of your experience here. If I was the devil, I would try to distract you, and I would say, you know what, you need to go work on this project, or your hobby is fishing, and so you ought to go fishing, or you really enjoy watching these movies, and so here are all of these movies at your disposal that you can watch. If I was the devil, what I would do is I would try to trick you into enjoying this time. You have more free time. If you're an on-campus student and you're taking 15 hours, you probably have a lot of free time. And so what I would do if I was the devil, I would give you all these really wonderful opportunities to go and enjoy your hobbies. And so I would distract you as much as I possibly could distract you. Well, that's the devil. Because what you need to do is you need to get up every morning and you'll look at the mirror and you'll remind yourself, why am I here? What I am here for is because I want to learn, I want to study the Bible, and I want to graduate, and I want to be a positive force for good. And so when the demons ask somebody, and the demons say, we know Jesus Christ and we know Paul, but who are you? Wouldn't it be amazing if the demons said, and I believe that the demons say, I know who Jeremy Barrier is. And what I want, what I would want if I was the devil, is I would want to distract you to the point that you forget every morning what you're doing here. And so that way when you go in and you think, why do I have to take an English class? I don't want to take an English class. And I can tell you this because these are my thoughts. I have thought these thoughts. The first class I took here was Dennis Jones Interpersonal Communications, and I wanted to be a preacher. That was the best class that I had ever had in my life, anywhere. And I just loved it. I took it in the summer. It was a 2-week intensive, and I just sat there and I soaked everything up because I wanted to be a preacher. And then my next semester I had English composition, and I did not want to be an English composition. I wanted to be a preacher. I did not want to be an English composition. But later, now I realize I would love to not sound like a hick. A few years ago, I went to speak in Washington, in Seattle. And the way the room was set up, there was this huge beam across the room, right in the middle, and it just echoed back to me. And so I was standing there, and it was a small class, and I'd spoken for about 10 minutes, and finally I just stopped the class, and I said, I sound like a hick. And they all just died laughing. Well, I wished it wasn't that way. And also, I've noticed that a good sermon is a great English composition. And I have found that the sermons that I preach, where my illustrations come from great works of literature that were introduced to me in my literature class, are the ones that I get the most compliments about. And those are my great, they're great stories, and they make great illustrations. Classic literature makes some of the best illustrations that you can use. It intrigues people. Well, I wish now that I want it to be done. And that brings me to the next thing, that if I were the devil, what I would tell you is you need to be done. And what I wanted more than anything was I wanted to be done. And so what I wanted to do is I decided that my last year, I found me a preaching job, and I moved off and I took the preaching job, and I decided I was going to finish my college experience on distance learning. And Stephen Guy, this was back there in VHS, he didn't have DVDs and we didn't YouTube. He would mail me huge boxes of VHS tapes for me to watch. And so I would watch those VHS tapes. And I was doing all the other things, and I was we had just moved. I had two small kids, and I was watching these VHS tapes, and I had 4 sermons and lessons to prepare every week, and I wanted to kill myself every day. It was a horrible, horrible, horrible experience, but what I wanted to be done. But now, I promise you, I would trade my diploma that hangs on my wall for knowledge. What I wish I had was knowledge. And I'll give you the diploma back. What I wish I had done is I wish I had taken the time to make sure that none of it escaped. And I got to keep every bit of it. Because now I live in a world in which I need it every day. And all the stuff that I wish I had put in there, and that I had the time to put in there, and that was my goal to put in there when I got here, I didn't get it done. Because I wanted to be done. And I wanted to go out and I wanted to work. I would tell the devil that if I were the devil, I would tell you every day, what you need to do is you need to be finished. Because you want to be a preacher, and you need to get out and you need to be preaching. That's what you need to do. And so what you need to do is you need to be done. You need to finish as fast as you can possibly finish. Don't hear me saying you need to drag it out, because I think, the devil, if he can't get you on one, he's going to try to get you on the other side too. I don't think you need to drag it out forever either. But I think that if I was the devil, I would tell you that what you need to do is you need to hurry. You really need to rush through this thing. And you really need to get done, because you're going to be the most effective. This is where the logic seems to break down, but you're going to be the most effective if you do a halfway job and rush through it and just get done. It doesn't really hold, somehow when you think of it that way, it doesn't really hold true. But that's what I would do if I was the devil, I would tell you that. Then I would, if I was the devil, I would say, I would try to get you to drop out. But what I would do is I wouldn't just say, okay, you need to quit. What I would do is I would say, you need to hurry and get done. And you need to overload yourself and rush through this. And you need to have a bad attitude. Those are the things that are really going to make you successful in ministry if you'll do these things. That's really how you're going to have a successful lifelong ministry if you'll do these things. And you know what? I have seen it in my own life, and I have seen it over and over again through I've been here. My dad I came to school in 1981. My dad graduated in 84. I graduated from here in 98. It is embarrassing to list the capacities in which I have served here. I'm not going to do that. But I can tell you, I don't think that there's a human being alive that has served in more capacities and had more relationships with the school than I have. I think, I'm the son of alumni. I'm an alumni. I've been in the master's program. I've been in every program that we've been involved in. I've served in almost every capacity that's possible. And the devil has whispered in my ear at each one of these things, the things that I'm telling you right now. And he's going to tell you, you need to be done. You need to rush through this, and you need to be done. You need to, if he can compile all these things up, and if he can overload you, and he can give you more than you can handle, and if he can tell you what you really need to do is you need to rush and you need to hurry. And if he can tell you, you really don't need this class, and you need to have a bad attitude when you sit through this math class, because there's no way in the world you're ever going to have to add anything. If he could just convince you that this is completely irrelevant to your ministry, and that those people in that church building, they're going to have a much deeper respect for you if they find out that you had a childish and rude attitude to your math teacher and told them that you didn't think that you needed math. Those people that are sitting in that congregation are going to have much deeper respect for you if you did that. If I was the devil, that's what I would convince you of all these things, and I would tell you. And then what would happen is if I could do these things, if I could get you to look for all the negative things, and if I could get you to rush, if I could get you to hurry, if I could get you to overload yourself, if I could get you to be distracted, then I've got my battle won, because you're going to quit. You're going to quit, and that's the worst thing that you can do. Because let me tell you, the devil wants you to quit. That's what he wants. He wants you to quit. He wants you to get that syllabus, and he wants you to freak out and think, 3 mini papers of 2 pages each, I can never do that. I can never do that. That's what Satan wants you to do. But you don't have to turn that in tomorrow. You got all semester to do that work. So if I was Satan, that's what I would do. If I was Satan, that's what I would do. I would convince you of all these things. And I would try to get you to quit. And then when Travis came and tried to talk you out of quitting, you will tell me, no, man, I'm going to finish later. I just can't do it right now. I don't know how many times that in my offices, whichever office I've been in, but in every office that I have been in, I have had multiple people sit in there and tell me, no, I'm not quitting. I've just got to take a break for a while, and then I'm going to come back. When I was working in recruiting one time, I ran a list of all the people who had one class, who had 2 classes, who had 3 classes to complete to get their degree. And it is a long list of people. And they say, well, I'll take it. I'm going to take it. They're not going to take it. Let me tell you, as firmly as I can tell you, if you quit and you walk away, Satan got what he wanted, and you will not come back to finish. Do not quit. The last thing I want to tell you is, if I was the devil, I would confuse. This is just a life lesson, man. Every one of you need to develop a sermon on this, because I see this almost every day, and it's one of the worst things I've seen, is that people don't know who their friends are, and people don't know who their enemies are. We treat our friends like our enemy, and we treat our enemies like our friends. The people that you really don't like, those are the ones that you tippy-toe around, and your friends are the ones that you smart off to. You know, we treat our enemies. And let me tell you, we get confused about who our friends and who our enemies are. And I see this in being on both sides of the fence. I see preachers do this every day. I see students do this every day. You don't realize who your friends are. Your friends are the ones that come to you and tell you really hard things sometimes. Your friends are the ones, you know, when you ask them, do I look fat in this? That they say, you know, they say, yeah. Now your enemies are the ones that say, when you ask them, do I look fat in this dress? They say, well, it's not the dress that makes you look fat. It's the fat that makes you look fat. That may not be your friend. But your friend is the one that comes to you and says the hard things. And you know what we do? We think that guy's our enemy. Your friend is the one at church that comes to you and says, hey, you know, you might want to think about this. That guy is your friend. The guy that pats you on the back and smiles to you every day, sometimes you don't realize this, but he's your enemy. And you want to go eat dinner with him. And he invites you out to eat lunch, but he's looking for ammo. He's looking for ammo, and you don't realize it. You really need to be careful throughout all your life to figure out who your friends are and who your enemies are, because if you come and talk to one of your professors, they may tell you something that's really harsh. But that's because they're your friend. If you come and talk to one of these people at school that have been out here doing what you want to train yourself to do, and they tell you something that's really harsh, you need to remember that's your friend. And this guy that's in the other room right now yelling to you, hey, come, you know, hey, you need to come over here. We got a Halo tournament going on that we plan to run until 4 a.m. That guy may not be your friend. That may be the devil. You know, the devil uses your friends. It's interesting to me that Peter is ready to fight and to die with the sword. And there's only, how many swords do they have when they come to arrest Jesus? Doesn't Peter say we've got, or somebody says we have 2, right? And we assume that Peter has to be one of the guys. I think that Peter says that because he's got one of them. And he cuts off Malchus's ear, which I still say he's aiming for a head. He's aiming for a neck, not an ear. But he's ready to fight and to die. You know, he's ready to fight and to die. But he's not ready to stand against a little servant girl. And Satan doesn't come at us the way that we think Satan comes at us. That distraction comes from the guy that you think is your best friend. He may be your best friend, but that temptation's coming from somewhere else. In Proverbs chapter 9:8, do not rebuke a mocker, lest he hate you. Rebuke a wise man, he'll love you. I also like the attitude that David says, the attitude that David has in Psalm 145, where David says, let a wise man, anybody, smite me, and it shall be a kindness. You know, if I'm doing something that I shouldn't be doing, and somebody hurts me to keep me from hurting myself, that's my friend. That's my friend. You want you to think about these things. Think about it. But if I was the devil, that's what I would do. I would not want to release you on the world as an educated, as a trained person whose goal in life is to spread the gospel. That's not what I would want to do. I would want to make you a negative person. I would make you a critical person. I would overload you so that you didn't have time to do the good things that you need to do. I would overload you so that you wouldn't have time to study. And then I would make you try to rush and hurry and get through and think that the most important thing in the world is for you to get out of here and get that piece of paper to hang on the wall. And then I would convince you that really what you need to do is it's never going to work. You know, it's never going to work. It's never going to work out because all these things, there's so many problems, and what you need to do is you just need to quit. That's what I would do if I was the devil. You know, think about that, and then when that stress hits, and when you get into that position, you think about what you would be doing if you walked away is doing exactly what the devil wants you to do.